Good evening and welcome to the City Council Finance Committee meeting of January 19th, 2021. I recognize a quorum. All councilors are present. For those of you who are joining us on YouTube Live or on Channel 12, Brockton Community Access, we thank you for taking time out of your schedule to watch local government. This meeting is being held in accordance with Governor Charlie Baker's signed open meeting law order dated March 12th, 2020, which relieves a public body from the requirement of Section 20 of Chapter 30A that it conduct its meetings in a public place that is open and physically accessible to the public, provided that the public body makes provision to ensure public access to the deliberations of the public body for interested members of the public through adequate alternative means, which we have done. Madam Clerk, would you call the first agenda item, please?
Appointment of Tiffany Ellis Niles of 31 Overton Street, Brockton, Massachusetts, to the Brockton Redevelopment Authority for a 5-year term ending December 2025. Invited Mayor Robert Sullivan, Tiffany Ellis Niles.
Councilors, Mayor Sullivan is chairing a school committee meeting tonight, so it's my pleasure to introduce Tiffany Ellis Niles. And Ms. Niles, if you have an opening statement, please proceed.
Yes, good evening, and thank you everyone for the time. I just want to say that I'm excited and very interested in being a part of the Brockton Redevelopment Board. I have a history. I've worked in housing. I worked for the Boston Housing Authority before going into private practice. I also handle landlord-tenant matters as part of my private practice. So, and I live in Brockton. I've lived in Brockton since 1996. Me and my husband, we own a home here with our 3 children. So, and I also am very active in the community. I'm working with the NAACP in the AXO program and also with my son's school committee. So I'm very excited to be here and to serve on the board. And if you guys have any questions, I'll be ready. Thank you.
Motion for a favorable recommendation.
Second.
A motion by Councilor Monahan, properly second. Any discussion? No further discussion. Call a vote by roll call, please. Favorable recommendation.
Azak,
Yes.
Cardozo,
Yes.
Cruz,
Yes.
Ianieri,
Yes.
Barwell,
Yes.
Lally,
Yes.
Mendez,
Yes.
Monahan,
Yes.
Nicastro,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
10 in the affirmative.
Favorable recommendation made to the full city council. Thank you, Mr. Niles.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you,
Councilor
everyone.
Rodriguez.
just to let you know, we're not on Channel 12.
Yeah, apologies. We're working on that. We're having some technical difficulties here.
Really?
Are we on YouTube Live, however?
Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councilor Rodriguez.
Yes, sir.
Item 2, please.
Reappointment of Richard Bath of 38 Frost Ave, Brockton, Massachusetts, to the Council on Aging Board of Directors for a 3-year term ending January 2024. Invited Mayor Robert Sullivan, Richard Bath.
Motion to recommend favorably.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion made and properly seconded to recommend favorably. Any discussion?
Can we just let the guy say something before we vote on this?
Yes, I'm just calling for any discussion. If anyone has any questions or comments, please proceed. Anyone seek recognition? All right, Mr. Bath, would you like to offer a comment? You are certainly well known for your volunteerism, and we thank you for your willingness to continue to serve.
Oh, thank you very much. It's my pleasure to go back to the Council on Aging and continue the work that incredible organization does for the citizens of Brockton. And I really cherish the time that I've served on the board. I've been on the board now for almost 5 or 6 years. So, and I appreciate your vote of confidence and thank you very much.
All right, any further discussion? If not, please call the roll.
Azak,
Yes.
Cardozo,
Yes.
Cruz,
Yes.
Ianary,
Yes.
Farwell,
Yes.
Lally,
Yes.
Mendez,
Yes.
Monahan,
Yes.
Nicastro,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
and Thompson.
Yes.
10 in the affirmative.
Favorable recommendation made. Item number 3.
Ordered that the superintendent of the school department, Michael P. Thomas, be authorized to put out an RFP for a 5-year contract for food service management for the Brockton Public Schools Cafeteria Meals Program. The current food service provider contract expires on June 30th, 2021. Invited Michael P. Thomas, Superintendent of Brockton Public Schools.
Councilors, the superintendent is with the mayor at school committee meeting. Without objection, we have Mr. Petronio here to make a presentation and answer any questions. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Please proceed, Mr. Petronio.
Good evening, everyone. For the past almost 12 years, we've had Chartwells as our food service provider. What they do is they manage our staff. All the employees are Brockton Public School employees, but there's a crew of 5 Chartwells employees that manages our staff. We've had a great relationship with them. They took us from an account that was actually running in the red when they came in, and they've made it a very profitable isn't the correct word to use, but they've been able to generate a surplus for every year, which we've used that surplus to buy new equipment for all the different cafeterias, tables, ovens, mixers, all kinds of items. So since we've been gone through now 4 times, we've done a 3-year contract. The way we do it is it's a 1 year with a 2-year renewal. So it gives us the option each year of canceling if we don't, if we're not happy with the production or the services. So what we're asking is if we could do a 5-year, which would be a 1-year contract with 4 1-year renewals. At any point in time along those 1-year renewals, we have the option solely at the school department's request that we can cancel the contract at any time. As I'm getting older, it just seems like 3 years seems to go by pretty fast lately. So if we did every 5 years, I think we're still in the same situation that we can cancel at any point in time. But it just makes the newspaper ads, you know, and the amount of information we have to put out and pay for when we place these ads, it makes it better off for us. It makes it more streamlined and continuous for us for the services. So therefore, I'm asking if we can do a 5-year, because anything beyond 3-year has to have city council approval.
All right, Councilor Cruz, you have your hand up. You are recognized. And you're on mute.
Thank you. I see Mr. Morris on here, and I know he's here for a different issue. I'd like to ask him a question about this, if I could.
Any objection, councilors? The chair hears none. Mr. Morris, could you answer a question for Councilor Cruz?
Sure, Counselor, no problem.
Thank you. You know, this is a procurement issue. Does the state frown on this at all in this way, or are they fine with this?
No, not at all. They leave it up to the municipality. It's just under Chapter 30B state law. It's required for any contracts greater than 3 years and needs city council approval.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Further questions, councilors?
Motion to recommend favorably.
Second.
All right, motion made and properly seconded to recommend favorably. No further discussion. Please call the roll.
Azak,
Yes.
Cardozo,
Yes.
Cruz,
Yes.
Ianary,
Yes.
Farwell,
Yes.
Lally,
Yes.
Mendez,
Yes.
Monahan,
Yes.
Nicastro,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
10 in the affirmative.
Favorable recommendation made. Item number 4.
Thank you.
Ordered. The City Council reviews a request of waiver of the residency requirements in accordance with the revised ordinances of the City of Brockton, Article 3, Section 2-100, City of Brockton Ordinance Waiver of Residency in reference to the Procurement Department. Invited Michael Morris, Chief Procurement Officer.
Good evening, Mr. Morris.
Good evening, councilors. I would like to make a statement of support for Ms. McManus's residency waiver request. Danette has been an exceptional and invaluable employee who single-handedly automated the entire department and kept major projects on track electronically during a pandemic without interruption. She has also made the department more accessible by bringing her prior municipal contract and procurement experience to the position. During Ms. McManus's tenure in the procurement department, she experienced a very tragic family loss, which created a personal hardship for her. Danette's sister passed away unexpectedly, and she took custody of her sister's 2 daughters and a 3-day-old newborn. So overnight, she basically went from a single parent with 1 son to a single parent with 4 children, one being only a few days old. While she made every attempt to comply with residency, circumstances prevented it. So with that being said, I would also like to mention that this request is also supported by the mayor, and I would truly hate to lose a caliber of employees such as Danette. So I want to thank you for your consideration, and I will try to answer any questions.
Councilors, the reason the young lady is not here tonight is she is taking care of 4 children. So Mr. Morris is appearing to provide you with the background information that hopefully will allow you to make a decision as to whether you favor this residency waiver or not.
Mr. Chairman, my hand raising option is not available, so I'm raising my hand.
Okay, well, I have Councilor Cruz's hand is still up. Maybe that.
Oh, okay.
We'll recognize Councilor Razak.
No, my hand is up from the last question, sorry.
That's all right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Mr. Morris. I didn't really get a lot of information on this item. I heard what you just mentioned regarding the person in your department. I just have a question. When she was hired, was she a Brockton resident?
She was hired initially as in a temporary capacity, so no, she wasn't. Her tenure here spans 3 different job titles, from a temporary clerk to a part-time clerk to now as permanent. So to answer your question, no, she was not a Brockton resident when she was hired as a temporary clerk.
Okay, and when was she hired as a temporary clerk?
She was hired in April of 2019.
Okay. So I'm a big supporter of residency, and for many reasons, but I also have supported waivers. I'm sorry to hear her personal, what she's had to deal with. So our sympathies go out to her regarding her sister. I just want to understand. So she does have. I didn't receive a resume or anything regarding this matter. So is she specific to your department? I think you said she had procurement experience.
Yes, and she is now the procurement department's administrative assistant grade 2.
So the reason for the waiver is that usually it's a year and then they need to move into the city within the year. So is that what?
Well, it became just one issue after the other, which was sort of beyond my control. When she was hired as a temporary clerk, towards the end of her assignment, I posted a position, went through the process for the permanent position. And approximately 2 days before I made my decision, the city instituted a hiring freeze. And then I was also informed that City Hall would be closing for 2 weeks, which into 3 months. When City Hall reopened, I found that the permanent position was listed as unfunded in the budget, and I was only left with a part-time clerk position in the FY21 budget. So Mayor Sullivan graciously requested the restoration of the funds, which was finally approved in August. And then I was finally able to hire Danette to the position on September 1st.
Okay, so the reason for my question is the residency request? Is it because there's a time, usually it's within a
No.
year of hiring?
No, the residency request is because of a hardship and for housing issues. She's unable to find suitable housing in the city at an affordable rate to accommodate her large family now. And there's also some educational and support programs that the kids need to stay in.
Okay, and another question, Mr. Morris. As far as, I think did you mention where she's living now, or so she's not in the city?
No, she is living in Easton right now.
Easton, okay. And I'm just trying to figure out when, obviously you were part of the hiring process, and the reason I'm asking these questions is the city council, we get a lot of, we get a lot of feedback from residents about the residency, and, these waivers have come before us numerous times. But what is the educational requirement that you had for this position when it was posted?
The educational requirement, an associate's degree or equivalent, journeyman's level or trade knowledge, a minimum of 3 to 5 years of previous work experience.
Work experience in procurement or just in office setting?
That's what I would have preferred, but as far as the job posting, it says 3 to 5 years of prior work experience or any equivalent combination of education, training, and experience which provides required knowledge, skills, and ability to perform the essential functions of the job.
Okay. And do you remember, and I know it's been a while, do you remember if we had, did we have Brockton residents that applied for this position?
Counselor, I'm not trying to be too strict, but the issue tonight is whether the circumstances relating to this young lady merit a residency waiver. I certainly have no objection to having.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, but I just have these questions are a reason why we keep finding ourselves as counselors with residency waivers. And I mean, if this is something that we need to look at, the residents of the city of Brockton voted for a residency. We have an ordinance that requires residency. So I mean, I sympathize with this person and with Mr. Morris, and I know he needs help in his department, so this is by no means and for him, but I'm just trying to understand how we're getting to these same situations. I mean, how many residencies have we had before us in the last few years, residency waivers? So I'm just, if you don't mind, Mr. Morris, did we have Brockton residents that applied for the job?
Yes, we did, Councilor.
Okay, did we have, I mean, 1, 2, in a city of 100,000 people, I would think that we would have qualified people for similar jobs.
I believe there might have been a half a dozen
Okay.
that applied.
But I'm figuring this, the person that you did end up hiring had qualifications that weren't in the other residents. That's why we hired somebody outside of the city.
Yes, Councilor, exactly.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Morris. I appreciate it. And I'm just trying to understand, why we find ourselves in these positions. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All set, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councilor Lally, you had your hand raised.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Morris, how are you?
Pretty well, and yourself?
Doing all right. I want to say to the rest of the counselors that, first I'll ask it, how long has it been since you've been, before this hire, since you've been without a lot of assistance down there in your department?
On and off for roughly 2 years.
Yeah, and procurement's a pretty big deal in a city the size that that we have. So one of the things I hear the most is from people in the city is that procurement needs more help. So I'm very happy to find you're going to find out that you have found an employee who is working out so well and who is being such a help to the department. You know, I think you you do a very good job with the department, and I'm inclined to trust your judgment on this matter. And to my colleagues, I intend to vote yes on this. But I will say, just for the future, I do not agree too much with the residency law, but it is the law of the land. And we're going to have to make, you know, some decisions about how we're handling this, because I'm sure there are a lot of folks at home right now who work for the city who had to pick up and move themselves and shift their lives, who are seeing in the recent years a lot of people move through and get around the requirements. So, you know, with each vote to with each vote that we make to grant an exemption, you know, we're sort of looking at our city employees who did move, and you know, they're wondering why. I believe the intent of residency was to hire Brockton people, not to hire out and have them move in. It was to hire Brockton. And if we're not doing that, then we're either not honoring what the voters decided when they voted this into law, or we're not really following residency. But I will support this, but I'm going to be hard pressed to support many more residency exemptions in the future, because we're getting to the point where, you know, we're really just bypassing the law. But I do trust your judgment, and I think this, you know, this kind of help is overdue for the procurement department. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor.
Councilor Lally. We have Councilor Ianieri and then Councilor Nicastro and Rodriguez. So Councilor Ianieri.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, Councilor Cardoza, I've had my hand up. My little hand isn't working as well.
Well, I'm sorry. I will add you to the list, Councilor Cardoza.
Thank you.
Thank you, again, Mr. Chairman. I do support what is before us this evening, and I support Mr. Morris in giving us the reason and facts to why this is most important. I'll go back just a little bit, because it was back in the end of 2018 when I was council president, and the beginning of 2019 when I wasn't, but was back sitting at the seat when I had already requested this position be put into that next budget when the late Mayor Carpenter was still alive and with us, and preparing that budget because we needed a position in his department. Procurement's always had a tough go, with some people coming, going, with some people that would be out sick, and no substitution there for him to have working with him. And I think, as Councilor Lally mentioned, procurement is one of the most important things that I think we have anywhere within the city, especially with procurement business, as it would be in any outside business or of how they do business. I think the position is very, very important. And I think that, you know, I am not afraid to say, and never have been, I was never a residency lover. I think it's time the residency law gets reworked. I'd love to know how many people really to this date even abide by the residency law, to be truthful with you. We know it was worked into contracts some years ago, some 24, 25 years ago, after the Fowler administration is when it got worked into our laws, in our contracts, I should say, which I don't think was the right thing to do, because to me this day, that isn't what the people voted for back then. They think it is, but it isn't. So with that being said, right now we've been handing out some waivers, you know, like Dairy Queens, you know, like ice cream cones here. And if you're gonna do for one, you gotta start to do for all. And I say that, and I don't try to be rude to even the mayor, and he put some before us when he became mayor, and we went with him. When Mayor Carpenter put him before us, we didn't go with him. So, and I'm not gonna go that route. But I think that this situation here, I think my concern would be if we're not able to do something, then Mr. Morris is sitting at his desk doing everything again, all by himself. And that is not the way that department should work. So I'm gonna support it. And I think others should as well, for the benefit of the city of Brockton in this particular case. So I thank you for those few moments, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Ianieri. Councilor Castro.
At this time, I will defer to Councilor Cardozo and jump in afterwards. Thank you.
All right, Councilor Cardozo.
Thank you, Councilor Castro. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Morris, I'd just like to clarify a couple things because I didn't receive a lot of information as well. So this person was hired once the hiring freeze was lifted in September. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you're saying there were 12 applicants, most of them which were Brockton residents at that time?
I believe maybe a half a dozen, and they were Brockton residents, yes.
Okay, and how much time was allowed? Like, how long was the position advertised? Do you know, more or less?
I believe the standard 2 to 3 weeks, I believe.
Yeah, my concern is I like to prioritize, for us to prioritize Brockton residents and especially minority residents, minority applicants. And I'm finding that we're not advertising these positions properly or giving it enough time to really do our due diligence to seek out qualified applicants in the city. This is an administrative assistant position. And I just feel like there has to be qualified candidates for this position in the city. I look at these things case by case as far as residency. And I think that in this situation, administrative assistant, we could have probably done a better job to find someone for that department. My other concern is this is a woman who suffered tremendous loss, and now she's inherited 4 children. I hear you guys saying, how is she to carry out, especially with a 3-day-old child, her duties? I just don't think that we should, I almost feel like we should re-advertise this position because we're going to give a residency waiver for someone that could potentially decide this is too much. I'm a single mom with all these children and all these issues, and I'm not going to continue on. What say you?
Council, if I may, the newborn is not a newborn anymore. She's approximately 16 months, and Danette has made all the arrangements for daycare and is able to fulfill her duties as administrative assistant.
Okay, so
And she is a person of color.
Okay, and so prior to her hire in April of 2019, just to clarify, she didn't work in Brockton prior to that, correct?
No, she didn't.
Okay, and she's always lived in Easton. And was there some plan for her to move to Brockton?
Yes, she searched for housing. She searched for new support agencies and educational service agencies, and she could not find any of that. She made a valiant attempt of complying with the residency ordinance.
Okay, and how many folks are in your department, Mr. Morris?
It's a department of supposed to be 3, but there's only 2 right now.
Okay. All right, well, that's helpful. Again, I just want to make sure that we're doing all that we can do to advertise these positions and giving it enough time, to prioritize our residents. But thank you for the information.
You're welcome, Council.
Thank you, Councilor Cardozo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Back to Councilor Castro.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Morris. We speak again.
Yes, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for being here this evening. Well, in my years on the planning board, when I would come into the planning board to pick up documents and get information, I was actually standing outside your office and your secretary's office, who I really liked, and she had to leave because of medical issues. This was a number of years ago, and you've been working by yourself for some time. And you just mentioned to Councilor Cardozo that Ms. McManus intended to move to Brockton when you hired her, and that's right, yes?
Yes, yes, Councilor, she had all intent purposes of moving to the city of Brockton.
Okay, and I'm looking at the ordinance right now, where the item number 3 is there are special circumstances that exist justifying resident outside the city limit. This woman has been hit with a train, having to take on taking care of her sister's children, plus the loss of her sister. And I understand, I've heard on information and believe that some of these children may have challenges as well. And so it sounds to me by everything that you have presented this evening and that I have heard that this item number 3 in the ordinance certainly would apply to Ms. McManus. I won't second guess your hiring her because I'm sure dealing with you right now on a procurement matter over the wastewater treatment plant's operation, and as we're going through right now, you and I and others, I know how specialized the knowledge of procurement is under state law. And so I can imagine for you to find someone, even in a part-time basis, to work with you who already has this knowledge must have been terrific and very desirable.
Yes, it's very challenging.
Yes, it is. It really, the little I've seen, it's very challenging. It's taken me hours to wade through this, as you know. For all these reasons, I think you meet the exception number 3 in our ordinance. And I will be sponsoring this, and I wish Ms. McManus all the luck in the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilor. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilor De Castro. Councilor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I got to know Jeanette when I was in the mayor's office running the city last year, and she's an exceptional young lady in terms of doing the work that she's doing. And I can see why Michael actually hired her, because she actually came into the office. She was a part-time person doing some part-time work. And then once the position became a full-time position, she probably was the most qualified individual to apply for the position, given the fact that she had the experience that the office was asking for. Mr. Chairman, I believe I've been in this council now since 2013, and we have had some crazy requests for residency waiver. And let me profess by saying I'm a stout believer that residency means a lot. When 60% of the voters in this city voted for residency, it's something that we ought to take seriously and not neglect. But when you sit down and think about it, in a day that we have lost 400,000 Americans due to COVID, and individuals are dying all over this country, and this young lady has lost her sister and has left her in a situation and events that she did not ask for. It's not like she said, I want to be in this situation. In speaking with her in the past, she had every intention of moving into the city of Brockton. And again, when you go from a family of 2 to a family of 5 or 6, it becomes very difficult for you to find adequate housing that actually is suitable for a family of her size now. It's not like she asked for this situation. I believe we, as elected officials, as people that are supposed to show care for community members, I believe we owe it to do what we can to support this woman who actually has been doing the work for quite some time now. I mean, this goes back to last year when she was working on a part-time basis in that department. And being someone of color, she's an African-American candidate, and I believe that actually she checks off a lot of boxes for us. And we owe it to her to be as supportive as we possibly can. And that is one of the reasons why I will support her candidacy for this position. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Rodriguez. Further debate, discussion?
Motion to recommend favorably.
On the motion, I would like to make a motion for a reverse roll call vote, please.
All right, let's, I'll ask for a reverse call. There is a motion made and properly seconded to recommend favorably. Would the clerk please call a reverse roll call?
Azak?
Reverse.
Oh,
Add-
God, I'm sorry. Yep. Thompson?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Nicastro? Counselor Nicastro?
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Thank you. Monahan?
Yes.
Mendez?
Yes.
Lally?
Yes.
Farwell?
Yes.
Ianieri?
Yes.
Cruz?
Yes.
Cardozo?
Yes.
And Azak?
Yes.
That's 10 in the affirmative.
Okay, the measure is passed on favorably to the full city council.
Thank
Item.
Thank you,
five.
Councilor.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Item number 5.
Ordered. Acceptance and expenditure of the total grant award in the form of 76 car seats from the Buckle Up for Life Gift of Safety Partnership Grant to the City of Brockton Police Department Buckle Up for Life Gift of Safety Partnership Grant Fund. Invited Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer, Emmanuel Gomes, Chief of Police.
Move to recommend favorably.
Second.
Second.
All right, there is a motion made and properly seconded to recommend favorably. Any discussion?
On the motion.
On the motion, Councilor Nicastro.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I had the opportunity to speak with Michelle St. James from the police department about this. And she tells me that there are 4 police officers who are certified, child passenger safety certified. They go for a 2-day class and take an exam, and they have to be renewed every year, every 2 years. The police department takes the proper installation of these child seats very seriously. And every Wednesday night, people can go there and have someone check to make sure their seat is installed properly. Usually the state offers a program where car seats are made available, but they didn't offer it this year because money is tight at the state level. So they're very fortunate. We in Brockton are very fortunate that Toyota offered it in partnership with Copeland Toyota, excuse me. And that's where these car seats are coming from. This is a terrific thing for Brockton. I'm thrilled to see this happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion? If not, roll call vote, please.
Azak?
Yes.
Cardozo?
Yes.
Cruz?
Yes.
Ianieri?
Yes.
Farwell?
Yes.
Lally?
Yeah.
Mendez?
Yes.
Monahan?
Yes.
Nicastro?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
And Thompson.
Yes.
10 in the affirmative.
The measure is passed on favorably. Item number 6.
Ordered. Appropriation of $40,000 from Executive Office of Public Safety and Security, Office of Grants and Research, fiscal year 2021, Burn JAG Local Law Enforcement Opportunity Grant Fund. To Brockton Police Department, fiscal year 2021, Burn JAG Local Law Enforcement Opportunity Grant Fund. Invited Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer, Emmanuel Gomes, Chief of Police.
Motion to recommend favorably back to the full council.
Second.
All right, there's a motion made and seconded to recommend favorably. Chief Gomes, do you wish to comment?
I would just like to say that these are essential tools that we need. These will go to outfit our 14 recruits that we will hopefully have on the street by beginning of summer. We have 3 in the academy now, and 11 more will be joining a separate academy that's starting up in about 10 days. So I want to thank you for your support on this matter.
Mr. Clarkson, anything?
Well, Mr. Chairman, as always, I sent you a link to some more information about the grant in an email earlier today, but I echo the sentiments of the police chief. This is a recurring grant, and we appreciate your support.
All right, councilors, anything further? If not, would the clerk call the roll, please?
Azak,
Yes.
Cardozo,
Yes.
Cruz,
Yes.
Ianieri,
Yes.
Farwell,
Yes.
Lally,
Yes.
Mendez,
Yes.
Monahan,
Yes.
Nicastro,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
and Thompson.
Yes.
10 in the affirmative.
The matter is passed on favorably. Item number 7.
Ordered appropriation of $250,000 from Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Executive Office of Public Safety and Security, State Fiscal Year 2021 Massachusetts Municipal Public Safety Staffing Grant to Fire Department, State Fiscal Year 2021 Massachusetts Municipal Public Safety Staffing Grant Fund. Invited Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer, Michael Williams, Chief of Fire.
Motion
Chief
to recommend
Williams,
favorably.
All right, there's a motion by Councilor Azak to recommend favorably. Councilor Cruz, did you second that?
Second.
All right. Chief Williams, any comments?
No, Council, it's just that this is about the 5th year that we've received this grant. It goes towards my overtime account. It's very helpful.
All right, Mr. Claxon, I assume you're going to rely on your prior email?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
All right, no further discussion. We'll proceed to a roll call vote.
Azak,
Yes.
Cardozo,
Yes.
Cruz,
Yes.
Ianieri,
Yes.
Farwell,
Yes.
Lally,
Yes.
Mendez,
Yes.
Monahan,
Yes.
Nicastro,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
and Thompson.
Yes.
10 in the affirmative.
Matter is passed on favorably to the full council. Item number 8.
Donation of $500 from an anonymous source to the City of Brockton Police Department. Invited Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer, Emmanuel Gomes, Chief of Police.
Motion to recommend favorably.
Second.
Motion made and properly seconded to recommend favorably.
Mr. Chairman, on the motion.
Comments as to where this money will be expended?
Mr. Chairman, on the motion.
Councilor Rodriguez.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to ask the chief, because we've had quite a few of these anonymous sources donating funds to the police department. I think not there's anything wrong with folks donating it, but when you see in a city a bunch of donations or anonymous donations to the police department, one of the things that it does not do, it doesn't do justice to the eyeballs in a sense, because I mean, when you look at law enforcement, we should not be accepting anonymous donations to the department. So is there any way in the future, and this question goes to the chief of police, we as councilors at least be informed who the individuals who are donating these funds are? Because frankly, like I said, it doesn't visually look like the best that it could look for donations to be made to the police department anonymously.
I would.
Counselor, I can add something to that. All of these donations have been entirely for our K-9 program. These have been supporters, local supporters, and also regional supporters of police K-9 programs that we have been building up in Brockton. As you know, our dogs have been essential and received training in finding children, autistic children, Alzheimer's patients. There's a variety of use with these canines. So we have received several donations, and all the ones that you've seen have been exclusive to the canine program. Some of the people request that they remain anonymous simply because they don't want to be on any list or solicited for any other means. And last year we received a sizable donation from an individual who supports canine programs throughout the Commonwealth. And all of these things, just so you understand, are exclusive for the support of the canine program. It assists us in paying vet bills, providing for their training, food, all the essentials that are needed for the canine program that we simply don't have in our budget. So it's been an asset for us. And we try not to force anyone to put their name on it. So I want you to understand why some of these are anonymous. It's a request by the donor and not the police department keeping that from you.
Well, Chief, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not actually questioning the work that is done by the canine unit or the canine officers or the canine themselves. But what I'm saying is that when you see week in and week out donations being made to the police department anonymously, it leaves visually, it does not look all that good to a law enforcement agency. And sometimes we got to look at things that perceptions are everything. So I'm just trying to figure out a way to kind of work with this so that you don't hear from the community that, oh, by the way, the police is taking donations anonymously for whatever project, whatever good meaning projects you have going on. And I believe the canine project is definitely one of those. But it's just that visually it does not look very good in terms of a police department receiving anonymous. I know that the donors mean well and it's coming for a good cause, but it's just that, you know what, in the past, there's been issues with donations being made to certain individuals, but when it's kept anonymously, then it leads a lot to be kind of fill in the blanks types of thing. And that's what we'll try to avoid. I hope you understand that.
I understand that, Counselor, and point well taken. I will stress for some of these people to be identified to offset some of those concerns. We have had some donors that had no problem being identified, and they were, and their names are on the check, things of that nature. But I will stress for us to get more of that information to offset some of these concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Councilor Cruz.
Thank you. It's funny that Councilor Rodriguez spoke of this because I was kind of thinking the same thing. I hate to ask who the donor is because that takes away their reasoning, and I'm sure sometimes they just don't want the praise. But particularly when it involves law enforcement, I just would trust you, Chief, to make sure you're vetting these people and that there's no quid pro quo or no opportunity for somebody who has a background that we may not want to be taking some money from. And $500 is not a huge amount. We've realized that. But it is a slippery slope when you get anonymous, particularly to law enforcement. And so I guess I'd say I will always trust your judgment, but I just hope you're vetting these people well and making sure that that the money doesn't come from a source that we don't want it from, and that the people aren't looking for any kind of quid pro quo, which again, $500, and I'm sure they're dog lovers and want to help us out, but just please make sure you're keeping us, and I'm sure you are, from a position that we don't ever want to be in.
Oh, I understand. Again, I understand entirely what you're saying, and we do vet these people to the point. Some of them are local businesses, if you will, that really they don't want to be solicited on other items. We do have a specific line item that was set up for a specific canine fund, and all these monies are expended only on the items that I told you, and for no other reason. Some of the people specify that those funds are used exclusively for the dogs and their treatment and their care.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Councilor Cruz. Councilor Lally, you sought recognition.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was basically going to say something in the vein of Councilor Cruz. You know, I would be fine leaving this up to the chief's judgment. If the chief has anything that's kind of gray or confusing, you know, I have full faith and confidence that he would bring it to the appropriate authority. You know, these donations are going to one set area. Not with informing the council would be that, you know, really that's basically informing everyone. It would be a public communication to the body. And there's nothing to really stop us from making mention of it. And you know, that's how it quickly becomes no longer anonymous. So as you know, these things are being vetted. I have no problem with the way it's being done. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I would call the vote.
You're welcome. The vote has been called. Motion is made, properly seconded. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Azak,
Yes.
Cardozo,
Yes.
Cruz,
Yes.
Ianary,
Yes.
Farwell,
Yes.
Lally,
Yes.
Mendez,
Yes.
Monahan,
Yes.
Nicastro,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
10 in the affirmative, 11, excuse me.
Passed on to the full council with a favorable recommendation. Councilors, that ends our regular agenda. Before we go to any recognitions, we will have a regular council next Monday, 25th at 7 p.m. It's Monday, the 25th at 7 p.m. Councilor Cruz, you seek recognition.
Just a reminder to everybody on the ordinance committee that next Tuesday evening at 6 o'clock, we'll be having an ordinance committee meeting. It is a pretty full agenda, so try and move quickly, but 6 o'clock, and your invitation always says 5:30, but that's just what time BCA goes on in case you want to check your connections. The meeting is at 6 o'clock.
All right,
Thank you.
Tuesday,
Councilor Cruz, I'm
Yeah.
sorry,
Go
Mr.
ahead,
Chair.
Councilor.
Yes,
Can I just
Counselor.
ask, is that meeting open to the public?
They can watch it on Zoom. It's not a public hearing. It's
Okay,
an ordinance committee. There won't be members of the public speaking.
okay. I know you have a couple of items regarding the marijuana
Yep.
amendments, so can folks submit any comments or any recommendations to the ordinance committee? To
They can send
yourself?
them. They can send anything they want to a counselor, but this is not a public hearing, so they won't be read into the record or anything.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Any other recognition? All right, then that concludes our meeting. Thank you, councilors. Meeting is adjourned.